Now, if you're an author and you've written one book, two books, three books, or several books, and you're not making sales, or you're making less than $500 to $10,000 monthly, then I have something really, really good to share with you today. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is something that you probably want to consider. It's something that you probably want to think about if you have a book out there, if you have a book on Amazon, you have a book on some other platform, and you're not making sales. Whenever you go to your Amazon dashboard and you hit refresh, you see no sales to report, and you keep hitting the refresh button and changing the different date ranges to see if something will pop up automatically. But no matter what you do, you still don't see any sales reported. Or maybe you've written a book, or you're about to finalize the book that you've written, and you're not quite sure what to do to get that book out there, to get that book fetching you decent cash flow. Then I'm going to share with you some really, really powerful things that you can do right now to change the game for your book as far as making money from your book is concerned. And by the way, my name is Iradefe Olabi, and I'm an author of 17 plus books. I'm currently working on my 18th book, and I have a thing or two that I can actually pass across to you, being someone who also coaches other authors and helps them to generate increased income from their book idea. I have a thing or two that I can pass across to you that could potentially change the game for your journey as an author. Now, in working with several authors, one of the biggest problems that holds them back is something really, really simple that really, really makes a big difference, and that is how they title their books. Now, your book title could either make or break your book project, and so this is something that you do not want to take lightly if you're currently considering publishing your book, or you already published your book and you're not making sales. The first thing I would look at is the book title, right? If I were to sit down with you in a one-on-one session or in a strategy session, that would be the first thing that I would look at. What is your book about, and how have you titled that book in a way that communicates that promise in a picture that is well visualized, that is well presented for people to understand exactly what the book is for. Now, there are 5 common mistakes that most authors make that causes their books not to sell, or that causes them to stay broke and frustrated despite being prolific as an author, despite being a prolific writer. Being prolific does not necessarily equate to being profitable as an author. And so if you want to be profitable as an author who is prolific, you want to dial in your book title and subtitle correctly. But there are 5 common mistakes that most authors make that prevents them from having their book title and subtitle correctly dialed in, or properly dialed in, or adequately put together. And so today I'm going to share them with you. The first thing that I've seen working with several authors over the past 8 to 10 years is that they structure their book title like a riddle or like a puzzle. When your book title is a riddle or a puzzle, it makes it difficult for people to actually understand what they can expect to get by reading your book, especially if you're not famous. You see, if you're famous or you're a celebrity and you have millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers on social media already, it means you already have a brand, you've already built a community. You probably could get away with that. But if you dialed this in and you fix this one mistake that I just mentioned, even if you were doing well as an author who is a celebrity, you would 10x your outcome, you 10x your revenue just by fixing your book title and making it clear and avoiding the use of riddles or puzzles as your book title. Now, when I started out in my journey as an author, I felt like being an author was a way of, proving to people that I was smart, that I was savvy with the use of language, with the use of the English language. And so I would try to use words that, had very unique coinage. I would try to twist words and use words as puzzles and riddles just to prove to people that I was smart. But guess what? Being smart does not equate to being profitable, right? We have many smart authors who are clever, but they have no cash in their bank account because their book titles have been presented in a way that confuses readers instead of a way that attracts readers to want to know more or to become curious about learning more about their book. And so you want to avoid writing your book with a title that is a riddle or a puzzle. And the singular reason is because if they have to figure it out, they are going to scroll away. The purpose of writing a book is because you're telling people that you have figured something out on their behalf. And so now they can get that information and transformation by reading your book. And so if they still have to do the hard work of digesting what you're putting together because it's too difficult to consume, then the purpose of writing that book is actually defeated, because your job as an author, and as a prolific author at that, is to pre-digest whatever information and transformation that you're packaging in your book. And so if you cannot do that at the very basic level, as far as the title and subtitle of your book is concerned, it means you have failed in your primary responsibility as an author. But that is fixable, right? And now that you've heard this, I'd encourage you to go back and fix that mistake if you're currently making that mistake. Now, the next mistake that most authors make that causes their books not to sell is that they use clever wordplay, right? Using riddles and puzzles is one thing. Another thing could be using clever play on words as your title or subtitle. Now, some people may get away with that if they're popular, but if you're just starting out and you actually want to generate massive cash flow from your book idea, you want to avoid using clever wordplay that presumes that people already know what you're saying. Meanwhile, they really don't know what you're saying. Why? Because the purpose of writing your book is not for you to display how cute you are with words, but to ensure that you are able to give people clarity just by seeing your book. So the clearer, the better. The clearer your title is, the better. The clearer your title is, the stronger the promise will be. And the easier it is for people to really understand that this book is for them and that they are going to get some level of value from reading and buying your book, right? Now, the next thing I'm going to deal with that I see as a mistake that kills the sales potential of most books and most authors who write books is that they use niche industry jargon. They use techno babble. They use inside lingo as their book title. Now, if you're writing a book that should be consumed or read by people who are lay people as far as your industry is concerned, you want to avoid using industry jargon as your title or subtitle, because these people don't know what you're talking about until they read your book, right? So you want to give them enough pre-digested insight from your book title in such a way that when they see your book title, they know that, oh, this thing will probably help me understand X, Y, Z, or probably teach me A, B, C. But when authors who are specialists in an area or in a field want to come into the marketplace, most times they tend to make the mistake that forces them to be limited and that forces them to not make sales, right? So if you are someone who has some industry knowledge, some specialized knowledge, and you're coming into the marketplace, you want to sell your services, you want to sell your knowledge, you want to make sure that you're titling that book that you're packaging in form of a product, a transformation product. You want to make sure that you're packaging it in a way that people who are not necessarily a part of your industry or a part of that esoteric group, they can pick up your book, they can consume it and still learn a thing or two from reading your book. So you want to ensure that you're avoiding industry jargons, you're avoiding insider lingo, and you're presenting your ideas in a way that is crystal clear so that people can actually benefit from the value that you have packaged as a book. So don't assume that people know what you mean. If people have to Google what you're writing about every other time, then it means that you've not done your job correctly. And I used to make that mistake many years ago. I used to, put out words that were niche, words that were, inside that lingo, techno babble, that people would have to, crack their brains and break their brains to figure out, and use 2 dictionaries before they can figure out what it was, until I came to understand that the goal of actually writing is to help people to understand and to receive knowledge with ease, right? So my job is to pre-digest information for them. And so you want to present your message to them in a clear form from the way your title is presented and your subtitle is presented. Now, the next thing I'm going to share with you, that's a mistake that kills book profits and that makes many authors not to sell, or many books not to sell, is that most authors, they use ambiguity and abstraction as their title. They write their titles in a way that is ambiguous and abstract, in a way that is not relatable. You want to make sure that your title is relatable. You want to make sure that your title does not make abstract references that people cannot really grasp just by looking at it. You want to make sure that when people just see the title of your book, they easily know exactly what you're suggesting to them or the idea you're trying to sell to them, and it's easy for them to put a thing or two together to figure out that that book is going to help them solve their problems. And so you want to make sure that you don't name your book like a drug that's on the shelf in a pharmaceutical shop that has names that is so difficult to pronounce, and that has names that is so abstract and unrelated, or that has names that require insider knowledge, that require pharmaceutical or chemical knowledge to understand. You don't want to put out your titles like that. You want to make sure that it's clear, precise, unambiguous, and without equivocation. And then the fifth mistake that most authors make is that they use passive language. They use soft language as their book title. And this is something that can actually reduce the impact of your book just from the first page, right? You want to ensure that you're putting out a strong promise with your book title, and you want to make sure that your promise is as clear as night and day, right? So that when people see your book title or hear your book title, they are like, I want that. So what should your book title be about, and how should you title your book? Well, the rule of thumb that I usually give to my clients when I guide them on how to make the most of their book title is to ensure that it's a clear word picture, to ensure that their book provides or presents a clear promise, a strong promise with a clear before and after and a strong transformation. And it's as clear as possible using simple and easy to understand language. When you do that for your title, and you ensure that in your subtitle you provide clarifications where necessary, and you provide a basic insight into what someone who reads that book can expect to get in your subtitle, it means that your book stands a greater chance of succeeding, and people would most likely be primed to buying your book. And so these are 5 mistakes that I have observed. There are many more, but I feel like if you can fix these 5 mistakes as an author or as an aspiring author who's about to publish, then your chances of getting your book out there to succeed has significantly increased. Now, there are many other mistakes apart from just the book title mistakes. There are many other mistakes that time will fail me to cover in today's episode. And so if you're about publishing your book, or you've already published your book and you're not making sales, or you want to avoid the mistakes and the errors that most authors make that causes them to be broke like a joke and ready to choke, I invite you to join me for 5 days in the Publishing Profits Challenge, where I'm going to walk you through my 5-step system and framework that can help you earn and cash out from your book idea. And so if this sounds like something that you're interested in, you're going to find the link below this video. Check it out and take advantage of that opportunity. I'm going to leave it here for now. I'll see you on my next one. Till then, have a good one, and bye-bye.